The number one thing that I plan at this point is I actually just found out this week that I've been ruling something very basic wrong the entire time I've been a DM. The first campaign I ever ran, my players were a lot more experienced than me. So I sort of think that being a dungeon master is akin to being a party planner. Improv story, not a novel. Yeah. Cage King, one tip that I've heard for DMs is that if you're stressing about how much planning or prepping, then you're probably over preparing or over planning. Maybe. I think I agree, but I think the way that I would say it is that you don't yet know what it is you personally need to plan. Everybody, and that's one of the tricky and interesting challenges about being a DM. There are lots of things you could plan, but there's some stuff that for you, the way that you like to run a game or the type of game that you want to run and the way your mind works and what you can think of on the spot, there are certain things that are a waste of time to plan. And if you don't know yet what you need to plan, I think that's where anxiety comes from, at least for me. You know, if I'm planning and I'm feeling stressed out, it's because I don't feel confident that I've got what I need to improv the rest. You know, some people might need NPCs or magic items or loot drops or whatever else. And if they have that taken care of, then they can handle the rest. Something that it took me a long time to figure out is exactly what information I needed about an NPC character in order for them to have like good conversation. I don't want to write a bunch of stuff because that won't fit with the situation, but okay, I'm going to say that they forget names, let's say, or maybe they try to make jokes and they're bad at it, or maybe they are forgetful in general and so they're constantly jumping from one topic to another and losing track, things like that I might write down. That way I know, okay, I know how to act like this in the moment. That took me a really long time to figure out. I would end up writing lots of very specific things that I wanted NPCs to say, right? I had to prep and run and eventually go like, why am I prepping this stuff? I don't use it. And that's just part of the process, I think. The number one thing that I plan at this point is the connections and the story elements that I know I want to include. So the stuff that I'm jotting down is that, okay, when they defeat this boss and they're like, I want to loot the boss and I want to loot his lair and find all this stuff, I want to make sure that I'm thinking ahead of time about what they are going to find and how it connects to what in the world and what cool stuff. If I'm going to make something or magic items, I want to think about those and where they came from. That's where a lot of my planning goes in is to sometimes I think some of the specific plot pieces, because that's where I'm wanting to sort of drop clues and things like that. So I don't want to necessarily be in a position where I have to come up with that on the fly. Any tips on DMing? I guess don't get overwhelmed. Don't think you need to know everything, because nobody knows everything. And I actually just found out this week that I've been ruling something very basic wrong the entire time I've been a DM. I found out that I've been running concentration checks like totally wrong. Technically fine because I've been keeping it consistent between myself and players, but not at all how it's supposed to be run. When you are casting a spell that requires concentration, if you get hit, then you're supposed to do a constitution check, to see if you can maintain that concentration. And that concentration check is 10 plus the level of the spell. And that's how I've always run it. But really, it's a saving throw, 10 or half of the damage done, whichever is higher. It's been fair across the board, but I'm giving my players the option as to whether they want to use the rules as written or adjust to play with this unintentional house rule. Yeah, my gut tells me that it's probably at earlier levels. I feel like that would make concentration a lot harder for player spellcasters to make versus, I could be wrong. That's just I don't have anything to back that up. That's just my gut reaction to the real full rule. I guess you shouldn't read just the first sentence of a rule. You should probably read the entire rule. How can you help a player turned DM learn? If you have somebody that's interested, something that I've tried in the past, basically help them run a one shot. Play in their one shot and be the best player that they'll ever have. I think the DMs have a lot of helpful knowledge, sort of helpful meta knowledge, I guess, about what great players can do at the table or how to be a better player. And so put that to use and try to be the most supportive player at the table for their one shot. Lean into everything, anything that you can see that's signposted, help with that. Anybody that needs talking to or any questions or any whatever. Like the number one thing for new DMs is probably confidence, right? Putting in the time at the table. It's going to be up to each DM to sort of find their inspiration and see what kind of game they're interested in. You can help a lot probably with getting them their first few hours at the table and establishing some confidence, which could go a long way. I know that when I ran a one-on-one campaign for my wife and she played a wizard, I think for the first 6 months or more, we did not at all understand how magic worked. Known spells as a wizard, prepared spells as a wizard, spell slots as a wizard. I'm fairly certain that the way we played it for the first at least 6 months was that if she had her spell book, she could basically cast any spell that was in her spell book. Which was really fun for her because she could cast all these different spells. Even looking back on it, like, I'm not sure that I would change it. Well, the important thing with the rules, every single rule issue or discrepancy can boil down to a simple conversation at the table, which is, okay, how about you roll a die and I roll the same die, and then whoever gets the higher one succeeds. Athletics versus the dexterity, you can basically set whatever terms you want. As long as the table is comfortable, and you can basically just even propose it to the table. It's like, okay, how about we do this? Because ultimately, rolling those dice and adding bonuses, you include the skill bonuses in there, and that's about as fair as it can be. The first campaign I ever ran, my players were a lot more experienced than me. They knew a lot about the Forgotten Realms, and so that is why I decided to do a custom world, because I didn't think I could be. I thought that it would break sort of the truthiness of the world if they were correcting me about things that I screwed up because I didn't know. So that's why my world is custom, is homebrew, and everything like that. That just sort of became a necessity. Granted, I really enjoy it, so I haven't regretted that at all. But I sort of think that being a dungeon master is akin to being a party planner. We just are creating experiences. We get to evaluate them and see them happen live, right? Like we get to experience them with the player at the table, but all we can do is try to create the types of things that we think or we understand would be fun, and then try to find and hopefully refine that process so that other people find it fun. Mischief, I know. It's been pretty bonkers. December was a wild month. Very, very exciting. Yeah, that looks a lot better. That looks like the yellow's a little bit strong, but I think I'm okay with it. So then this guy is gonna go in there.